Thanks for tuning in to the Political Guy. I'm here with Ryan Danial, who is the mayor candidate here in Columbia City, Indiana. And Ryan, first question off the bat. Well, first of all, thanks for stopping in for a minute here. And the
No problem. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity.
hey, I know I love it. So the first question off the bat, political question is, what does politics mean to you as a candidate?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think most of the public would think politics is a lot more about Republican and Democrat, but to me, I kind of see it as serving your constituency. So obviously, if you're at the local level, you're trying to improve the conditions of your citizen base there. You go up to the state and national levels, you're working with a different constituency, obviously, but basically politics in the political science realm, I guess, is the way in which we interact, the policies we push forward, the issues that we wholeheartedly believe in, things to that effect. But basically, as a politician, your goal is to serve your constituency.
Mm-hmm. And see, I love that what we're going to do here is not let anyone know what side of the parties you're on. And
Right.
the people in your town know, and for this website, it's just fun with politics, and no one needs to know, and that's fun. The
Okay.
other question, next question was going to be, when did you find yourself becoming interested in politics? What age? What events were going on?
Yeah. Well, I honestly, I've really been involved in, well, not involved, I've been interested in politics for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Back in high school, specifically, was when I kind of caught the fire, if you will. I can remember the 2000 election and all of the hubbub with that. Now, that I wouldn't say that's necessarily the beginning of where I started liking politics, but um, I can remember being in my household and my dad liking someone, my mom kind of liking someone, and then I kind of liked the dark horse candidate, you know, on in the presidential election, and so it was an interesting thing there. But I got to travel to Washington D.C. a couple of times during high school and in college. Actually, halfway through my sophomore year, I switched from music to political science just because I saw that as more of a profession than music being my passion. So
Right, and I like that
yeah,
you had your dark horse candidates. It's both sides have their dark horse candidates. God knows I voted for a couple.
yes, that's right. You know, you got to have that passion that you believe in someone, even if they have no chance in winning. You know.
Yeah, it's like no matter what, you can always say, you know what, I'm voting for Nader or I'm voting for Ron Paul.
Right.
You always have that backup morally in your head.
That's exactly right. That's
uh,
exactly right.
while you've been campaigning, let me check here. Okay, how do you feel that your community relates to politics? Do you find that they are engaged or cynical in some areas? What's the breakdown that you're seeing while you're out there?
Well, I'd say in the current political environment, people are becoming more engaged. Now, with that being said, I would say more often than not, people are cynical about politicians until they know the person specifically. Like, for instance, there are many people that may have voted for me in the primary, and for some reason or another, they like me, but they think all other politicians are terrible people.
Mm-hmm.
It's that personal connection that makes a difference. With that being said, again, um, most people I would say are cynical about politics, but are becoming more and more engaged because of the different, the 24-hour media cycle is a part of it. I think the fact that there's a lot of really heavy issues hitting right now, nationally speaking, as well as locally, with the economy
Mm-hmm.
going on as it is. Those are the kind of things that get people involved. When it really impacts their checkbook, that's when they start to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, which actually kind of brings me to the next question, which was going to be um, actually I'm going to hold off for that one. I'm going to ask, since you've been running for mayor, what goes into that? Goes into that as far as organizing and structurally. What do you need to put together to run for mayor?
yeah. Well, there's usually a campaign committee that goes along with that. There are your advisors, if you will. They're the ones that rally the troops. But as for things like expenses and things like that, one of the things in local races is getting your friends, your neighbors, your acquaintances, anybody that likes you to give you money. It's the first part, obviously. We took an approach in the primary where we went door to door, and that really paid off in spades. There were a lot of individuals who may not have known me before then, but after I went and spoke with them about their issues as well as the things that I would like to see move forward here in the community, that really made a big difference. So I would say door to door on local races is the only way that you can really ensure that you're getting out to the masses, first of all. Second of all, fundraising is always kind of a tricky thing because in local communities you have a lot more of the humane societies and the American Red Cross and all of the different fundraisers that are happening at the same time that you're trying to raise funds for your own campaign. So getting people engaged, getting people on board with your campaign, showing them why it's important for them to get out and vote for mayor, especially local level mayor council races, can be challenging, but in the end, I think it's really rewarding to see those fruits, I guess, come to fruition.
I know from past experiences of campaigns that I've worked on, especially for anyone who's watching who's thinking about running for office in a local area, door to door is the only way to go. I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point where I see just in the past primary in our area, we had one candidate who put out so many signs, they were just all over the place, and he just bombed in the poll. And there's just the only thing that has been tried and true in every situation is to get out there and go door to door. And it's those personal relationships that you are able to sway a voter one way or the other. My next question was going to be, let's see here, what issues are you finding that people in your area are very much concerned with on a national level or a localized level? What are you seeing a lot of? But also, is there anything that is a surprise to you? Is there anything that's been coming up that, like, oh, I didn't think about that as an issue?
Yeah. Well, I think in our economy and in the way that we are right now, obviously spending is a huge issue, and that goes from the national level, state, all the way down here to the local level. Specifically in our local races, I've seen that getting control of spending is one of the biggest issues I hear from individuals. Especially because the local government is more responsive to them and is more accessible to them than the state and federal. This is the place that they can kind of get their frustrations out, which is fine. But I know that the state representatives and senators around the area have been hearing very clearly from residents as well as our federal government and what they're doing with budgets, deficits, and debt. So I'd say that's probably the biggest issue that I'm hearing from all levels. Education is always a big issue, specifically at the state level. And here at the local level, that is also the case in some way, shape, or form. We have an issue here in Columbia City that's regarding the high school and the future uses of the high school as well as where maybe a new facility should go. That's not really something the mayor deals with or has power funding wise or anything like that, but it is something that residents care deeply about, one side or the other, and it does play an impact even though we have no control over it.
Right.
So one last thing I would say that's an issue that I've been hearing about around here is specifically the police department, and that's not trying to specifically go in on a certain department, but they are the most visible part of city government, and so therefore everybody has an opinion on it, whether it be we have too many police cars or we don't have enough policemen, or we don't want these cars to be going outside the city limits, or the vice versa. And so I've noticed that really, if there's a couple of main issues obviously the economy is one that stretches all bounds, trying to bring in more jobs, but having deficit spending or balanced budgets, education, and then of course your local police department is always an issue.
Mm-hmm. That also brings up a good point when you're talking about the schools, about where what is the role of the mayor of the mayor in especially a localized little area that you're in, a city that you're in, but generally what is the role of the mayor and where do those powers end, and especially with what you're saying about the schools, where where is he able to be involved and not able to be involved?
Well, I think that the main role of the mayor or city government when it comes to education is to um, basically protect their constituents. Now, with that, the reason I say that is because there is always possibilities of the high school or other schools being moved outside of the city limits.
Mm-hmm.
On, on the periphery, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but when you start to talk about pieces of the community that bring people together, people things that bring individuals into the community, obviously the high school is a big part of that. So trying to keep high schools, middle schools, elementary schools within the bounds of the city, if possible, is one of the roles. Outside of that, trying to engage the youth population of our city,
Mm-hmm.
and even on the outskirts of our city. I think that's something that mayors have started to take a leading role in. Um, right now here in Columbia City, we have a I wouldn't say it's an issue, but there is a division regarding Eagle Tech High School. It's the new tech school that is basically a break off from the current Columbia City High School. It'll take a certain amount of students each year for the next 3 or 4 years until they become basically their own separate high school. And it's a different way of teaching, a different way of learning, and that uh, a wonderful part of that is that they've reused one of the buildings within the city that used to be a school.
Mm-hmm.
They've reused part of that. That's a wonderful thing. The issue that we're having with that citizens are really squeamish about is the fact that they use dollars for those that Eagle Tech High School rather than using those dollars for a new high school that they're probably going to have to bond for sooner or later. So there's a lot of issues that go with that, but the mayor's role is very limited. It has nothing to do with the budget, has nothing to do with the election of school board members or anything like that. It's basically a side role to help the education of the city and the community as a whole.
Okay, I'm interested because we kind of talked about what they aren't able to do. Is there a specific thing that you can cite that they are able to do? That's a little more, if you can draw on that more about proactive things that they've been able to do in the past, at least.
Yeah, well, I know that specifically in negotiations in the past of where a high school should be located, the mayor generally has been involved in those because it does impact our community. Furthermore, when you look at the utility side of it, you
Uh-huh.
look at your electric, your water, your sewer, all of those kind of pieces. Here in Columbia City, the water and the sewer won't be the issue because anywhere the high school goes around the city limits, whether it's inside or right outside the city limits, we'll be fine. We'll have those connections. Electricity is where the issue is, and that's mainly because there are certain parts of the city and on the boundaries that Northeastern REMC has I guess jurisdiction over and has power going to those locations. There are other parts of the city as well as outside the city boundaries that Columbia City Municipal Utilities has jurisdiction over and has electric going to. So if there is one thing, losing the high school to REMC, if you will, and I hate to use it that way because it's not an us versus them, but
Right.
having the high school go to an REMC territory and outside of a Columbia City Municipal Electric territory would really harm the city budget in a lot of ways because we're losing that base, we're losing that customer, and we're always trying to expand our customer base in the utilities. So.
Got it.